There comes a time in every person's life when the heart grows tired of carrying what was never meant to belong to it. A time when the spirit grows weary of bending to hold the weight of what harms it. A time when the soul whispers, "Enough." And it is in that whisper, soft yet mighty, that we find the courage to recognize the behaviors we can no longer tolerate, even when they come from blood, even when they come wrapped in familiar voices, familiar faces, familiar memories, and familiar love. For love is not the license to wound. Love is not the permission to break another. Love is not the excuse to cause damage and then hide behind the fragile wall of family. You may come into this world through a lineage, but you were born with your own dignity, your own worth, your own breath, and your own path. And the path you walk deserves peace. It deserves gentleness. It deserves respect. Too many hearts have been bruised because someone told them that family can do no wrong. Too many souls have been silenced because they learned that loyalty requires swallowing pain. Too many dreams have been dimmed by the shadows of those who believe their closeness gave them the right to belittle, judge, insult, or dismiss. But the truth rises, even through the cracks of silence. And the truth is this: you teach the world how to treat you by what you allow. You teach the world how to love you by what you tolerate. And it begins often with the people who share your roof, your name, your blood, your history. It begins with those who may have been the first to teach you comfort, but also the first to teach you hurt. Yet hurt is not your inheritance. Pain is not your destiny. And tolerating what shatters your spirit does not make you loyal. It makes you lost. There are behaviors that should never be tolerated, not from strangers, not from lovers, not from friends, and no, not even from family. Because family is meant to be a place where your heart rests, not where it is tested. A place where your truth is held, not where it is handled carelessly. A place where your dreams are watered, not where they are crushed beneath the weight of someone else's bitterness or insecurity. When someone uses their closeness to you as a weapon, it does not matter what name they hold in your life. Parents, siblings, cousins, partners. Titles do not cleanse toxicity. Blood ties do not sanctify harmful behavior. Love is not defined by DNA. Love is defined by action. There are those who believe that because they have known you the longest, they have the right to speak to you in ways that strip you of your confidence. They believe that closeness grants them access to your weaknesses, your insecurities, your soft spaces. They may believe that your silence is their victory, that your endurance is their entitlement. But you were not born to be anyone's emotional punching bag. You were not created to be the ground on which others stomp their frustrations. You were not sent into this world to be broken by the very hands that should protect you. People often hide behind the veil of familiarity, believing it gives them permission to act without accountability. But the heart does not distinguish between wounds caused by a stranger and wounds caused by someone you love. Both bleed the same. And sometimes the ones inflicted by family cut deeper, because they come from people you never thought would be the source of your pain. There is a kind of courage that grows in the quiet, a courage that trembles but rises, a courage that begins with a single decision: I will no longer let what harms me live inside my life. That courage does not require anger, nor rebellion, nor dramatic goodbyes. It requires truth. It requires boundaries. It requires honoring the space within you that has been begging to breathe. And sometimes the most sacred form of self-love is learning to say, I will not accept this behavior from anyone, not even from you. For there are people who will test the edges of your kindness. They will push to see how far they can go before you break. And when you do not break, when you stand firm in your quiet dignity, you reclaim yourself. You reclaim your time. You reclaim your peace. You reclaim your worth. You reclaim the authority over your life that should have never been handed to anyone else. The behaviors you refuse to tolerate become the foundation of the standard you set for your life. When you decide that manipulation will not be accepted, you cleanse your life of emotional poison. When you decide that disrespect will not be tolerated, you rise into the fullness of your strength. When you decide that cruelty, gossip, belittling, or control will not be allowed in your space, you open the door for love, for growth, for freedom. There are those who will try to guilt you into remaining in their storm. They will say you are selfish for protecting your peace, that you are ungrateful for choosing yourself, that you are disloyal for stepping out of chaos. But let me tell you something with the softness of truth. Self-preservation is not selfishness. Protecting your spirit is not disloyalty. Choosing peace is not betrayal. And the ones who accuse you of such things are often the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. When someone refuses to honor your humanity, they forfeit their closeness to you. When someone continually wounds you and expects you to stay, they misuse the gift of your presence. And when you allow yourself to remain in such a place, you slowly teach yourself that your pain is normal. But your pain should never be your normal. Your heartbreak should never be your habit. Your suffering should never be your home. You were born with a spirit that deserves to rise. Born with a voice that deserves to be heard. Born with dreams that deserve to be nurtured. Born with a soul that deserves tenderness. And you cannot live in the fullness of who you are while allowing toxic behaviors to take root in your life. Let me speak plainly. Love that hurts you repeatedly is not love, it is a leash. Love that controls you is not love, it is confinement. Love that belittles you is not love, it is domination. Love that manipulates, demands, drains, or deceives is not love, it is bondage. And though the world may tell you to endure because family is family, your soul knows better. Your soul knows when it has been dishonored. Your spirit knows when it has been mistreated. Your intuition knows when something is no longer safe for you. There is a strength that comes with choosing distance when closeness becomes damaging. There is a power that emerges when you step away from what diminishes you. There is a liberation that unfolds when you release the idea that blood requires blind loyalty. Loyalty without reciprocity is not loyalty. It is self-betrayal. You have the right to walk away from what hurts you. You have the right to close the door on what disrespects you. You have the right to protect your energy, your heart, your future. You have the right to say, "This behavior is not acceptable, and I will no longer make excuses for it." And that right does not evaporate simply because someone shares your last name. Some people will accuse you of being cold, distant, or ungrateful. Let them. Their words do not define your truth. Their discomfort does not dictate your decisions. Their inability to accept accountability does not obligate you to accept their behavior. The act of reclaiming your peace will always offend those who were comfortable benefiting from your lack of boundaries. You are allowed to love people from a distance. You are allowed to release people without hatred. You are allowed to let go gently, gracefully, silently. Healing does not always require confrontation. Sometimes healing requires stepping away. Growth does not always require explanation. Sometimes growth requires separation. Peace does not always require understanding. Sometimes peace requires departure. You can honor your family without dishonoring yourself. You can respect others without allowing them to walk on you. You can forgive people without granting them continued access to your life. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. Access is a privilege others must earn. And anyone who repeatedly harms you has lost that privilege. Do not let guilt convince you that protecting your peace is cruelty. Do not let nostalgia convince you that holding on is love. Do not let fear convince you that walking away is failure. Sometimes, the most courageous thing you can do is choose yourself. Not in arrogance, not in selfishness, but in truth. You were not sent here to live small. You were not born to shrink in the presence of those who cannot see your worth. You were not created to carry the emotional weight of others at the expense of your mental well-being. You were meant to rise, meant to breathe freely, meant to stand tall, meant to love and be loved in ways that uplift, not destroy. There will be those who cannot go with you into your next chapter because their behavior was written in the language of your past. There will be those who cling to the old version of you because it benefited them. But growth requires shedding. Evolution requires releasing. Healing requires unlearning. And peace requires boundaries. You cannot heal in the same environment that wounded you. And you cannot thrive in the presence of those who diminish you. Your life is too precious to be spent enduring toxicity. Your heart is too tender to be handed to those who do not handle it with care. Your spirit is too sacred to be absorbed by the chaos of others. So stand firm, stand tall, stand grounded in your truth, and know that choosing not to tolerate toxic behaviors, even from family, is an act of reclaiming your birthright to peace. You do not owe anyone the destruction of your well-being. You do not owe anyone the sacrifice of your sanity. You do not owe anyone the dimming of your light. The only thing you owe yourself is honesty, safety, dignity, and love. And the moment you decide to honor those things, the moment you choose to guard your heart with wisdom instead of fear, the moment you choose peace over familiarity, you step into a new life, a fuller life, a freer life, a life where your spirit can flourish, where your dreams can grow, where your voice can rise, where your heart can rest. Let the people who love you show it through their actions. Let the people who respect you reveal it in their behavior. Let the people who value you prove it in their consistency. And let everyone else fall away like leaves in a season that has passed. For your life is a garden. And gardens only bloom when the weeds are removed, not hated, not cursed, just gently pulled out and laid aside, because they do not belong in the place where beauty is trying to grow. And so I say to you with the quiet strength of truth, do not tolerate what wounds you, not from strangers, not from lovers, and not even from family. You are worthy of a life where your heart can breathe. You are worthy of relationships that reflect your value. You are worthy of love that feels like sunlight, not shadow. And when you honor that worth, the universe rises to meet you, carrying peace in its hands, whispering, "You chose yourself, and now everything else can finally fall into place." People who never apologize are telling you they value their ego over you, and there is a deep truth hidden inside that simple behavior. An apology is never just a collection of words. It is an acknowledgement that someone sees your pain, respects your experience, and values the bond more than their pride. When a person refuses to apologize, especially someone close to you, it means the relationship has become one-sided. You become the one who bends, the one who absorbs the hurt, the one who silently carries the weight of their mistakes. And over time, that weight becomes heavy, not because of what happened, but because of what never happened afterward. The lack of accountability, the lack of care, the lack of basic human respect. Some people are so attached to their image of being right that they cannot allow themselves to be human. They cannot admit wrong, even when the truth is shining right in front of them. They cannot face the idea that they caused harm. They fear the vulnerability that comes with saying, "I was wrong," because to them, admitting fault feels like losing control. But people who refuse to apologize do not understand that the real loss is the damage they leave behind. Every unspoken apology creates a small fracture in the foundation of trust, and those fractures grow silently until the relationship no longer resembles what it once was. When someone refuses to apologize, they are placing their pride on a pedestal higher than your feelings. They are choosing to protect their ego while leaving you unprotected. They are telling you without words that their comfort matters more than your wounds. And this behavior becomes a pattern, one that is destructive not only to the relationship, but to your sense of self-worth. You begin to question yourself. You begin to wonder if you're overreacting. You begin to shrink your expectations, telling yourself, maybe this is just how they are. But it is not your job to adjust to someone who refuses to grow. It is not your job to accept harm simply because they refuse to take responsibility. There are people who believe that silence can replace responsibility. They think that if they ignore the hurt long enough, it will fade. They assume that if they act normal, you will follow their lead. But silence is not healing, silence is avoidance. And avoidance is another form of disrespect. When someone hurts you and refuses to address it, they are saying your pain is inconvenient to them. They are saying your feelings are not important enough to pause their comfort. They are saying that harmony should be restored without accountability. But harmony built on suppression is not harmony. It is quiet suffering. People who never apologize often carry an inflated sense of self. They live in a world where they are always the victim, never the cause. They rewrite stories in their mind to justify their actions, blaming you for being too sensitive, too emotional, or too dramatic. These labels are not reflections of you. They are shields for them. They use these excuses to avoid looking inward, because looking inward requires honesty, and honesty requires humility, and humility requires strength that some people simply have not developed. In relationships, whether with family, friends, or partners, an apology is a bridge. It connects the moment of harm to the moment of healing. Without that bridge, the distance between people grows. And you may find yourself standing alone on your side of the divide, waiting for a gesture that never comes. At first you wait with hope, then with resignation, then with emptiness. The absence of an apology becomes louder than any words they could have spoken. And you realize that the silence was a message. They do not see your hurt as valid enough to mend. There is a kind of emotional maturity that comes with taking responsibility for your actions. It requires courage to admit you were wrong, compassion to understand the impact you caused, and love to want to repair it. When someone refuses to apologize, they are revealing their lack of emotional maturity. They are revealing that they prioritize being right over being loving. They are revealing that their ego stands between you and the healing the relationship desperately needs. This kind of behavior becomes especially painful when it comes from family. Society teaches you to forgive family quickly, to overlook their flaws, to excuse their harshness. But closeness does not excuse carelessness. Being related does not mean being respected. A blood bond is not a free pass for emotional harm. When a family member refuses to apologize, it cuts deeper, because these are the people who were supposed to teach you love, not condition you to accept disrespect. You learn that the ones who should protect you can also be the ones who wound you. And the wounds left by unspoken apologies are some of the hardest to heal. It is important to understand that an apology is not just about admitting fault. It is about rebuilding trust. It is about repairing the emotional connection. It is about showing that the relationship matters more than the conflict. When someone refuses to apologize, they are choosing disconnection. They are choosing pride. They are choosing distance. And if they continue to choose these things, you must choose yourself. Because tolerating someone who never apologizes slowly teaches your soul that your pain is not important. It teaches your heart that your feelings do not deserve acknowledgement. It teaches your mind that your experiences are invalid. And nothing harmful should ever be taught to your spirit. You deserve relationships where accountability is a mutual language, where apologies come naturally, not grudgingly, where people are willing to look at themselves with honesty, not defensiveness, where love is not reduced to who wins the argument, but who repairs the hurt. You deserve people who understand that perfection is impossible, but responsibility is not. You deserve to be heard when you say you were hurt. You deserve to be met with humility, not stubbornness. You deserve the kind of love that does not hide behind pride. There will always be those who believe apologizing makes them weak. But the truth is that refusing to apologize exposes their weakness more clearly than anything else. Strength is found in accountability, in self-awareness, in the ability to grow. Strength is found in the willingness to heal what was broken. And when someone refuses to take that step, you must recognize it as a reflection of them, not you. You cannot force accountability. You cannot beg someone into maturity. You cannot teach empathy to a heart that refuses to listen. But you can choose to stop shrinking yourself to accommodate their ego. You can choose to recognize that a relationship without accountability is a relationship without balance. You can choose to protect the parts of yourself that have been bruised by their silence. And you can choose to distance yourself from people who repeatedly show that their pride is more important than your peace. Those who drain your peace do not deserve access to your presence, and understanding this truth is one of the greatest acts of emotional freedom you can give yourself. Peace is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the quiet place within you where clarity grows, where your spirit heals, where your purpose becomes visible. Peace is the foundation of your strength, the home of your intuition, the soil where your dreams take root. And anyone who repeatedly disrupts that inner sanctuary is not simply difficult. They are dangerous to your well-being. There are people who walk into your life with storms hidden behind their smiles. They bring their chaos, their bitterness, their unresolved wounds, and they place it all at your feet, expecting you to carry what was never yours. These are the people who drain your peace. They are not always loud. They are not always angry. Sometimes they take your peace silently, in subtle ways, like always needing something from you while giving nothing in return, like expecting emotional labor without ever offering emotional safety, like pulling you into their crisis while never standing beside you in yours. Their presence becomes heavy, not because you lack love, but because they lack reciprocity. Your peace begins to erode when you constantly feel responsible for someone else's happiness. When you find yourself walking on eggshells around them, measuring your words, minimizing your joy, or suppressing your truth just to avoid conflict. When you notice that your body tenses before you see their name appear on your phone. When their energy drains you before they even speak. These are signs, loud signs, that your peace is being siphoned. And peace, once drained, takes time to rebuild. There are those who disguise their draining nature behind the mask of closeness. They will say they are family, they will say they are friends, they will say they care. But care that exhausts you is not care, it is emotional extraction. These people can turn joy into duty, kindness into obligation, love into burden. They may not realize the damage they cause, but the impact remains. Your spirit feels lighter when they leave, and heavier when they stay. That contrast alone is proof of what they bring into your life. Peace. Draining people often carry darkness they refuse to confront within themselves. They spill it everywhere they go, and when you try to help them, they lean on you so heavily that you begin to collapse. They want healing, but not responsibility. They want comfort, but not change. They want your strength, but not your boundaries. They want your presence, but not your well-being. And you cannot save someone who is committed to remaining wounded. You cannot rescue someone who refuses to swim. You cannot pour into someone who sees you only as a source, never as a soul. One of the most painful truths in life is realizing that love alone cannot fix people. Love cannot undo someone's patterns. Love cannot erase someone's denial. Love cannot teach someone respect. And love cannot create peace where someone else is committed to chaos. Peace is not something you create for others. Peace is something you protect within yourself. Anyone who continually disturbs that peace is not aligned with your growth, no matter their place in your life. People who drain your peace often believe they have the right to your energy simply because of their proximity to you. They will say things like, "You're supposed to be there for me. You know how I am." Or, "That's just how family is." But these are not truths. They are manipulations disguised as duty. Real connection does not demand that you sacrifice your mental or emotional health. Real love does not require you to set yourself on fire so someone else can stay warm. Real family does not drain you, it uplifts you. Sometimes the people who drain your peace are the ones you have known the longest. The ones tied to your memories, your history, your identity. It can feel impossible to distance yourself from them because they hold chapters of your life. But history does not justify harm. Time does not excuse toxicity, and longevity does not guarantee alignment. You can love people deeply and still recognize that they are not good for your soul in this season of your life. Your peace is sacred, and protecting it requires boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are gates that decide who is allowed to enter and at what capacity. A boundary is saying, "I love you, but I cannot carry you." Or, "I care for you, but I must protect myself." Or, "I want to help you, but not at the expense of my well-being." And the moment you create boundaries, peace-draining people will often resist. They will accuse you of changing, of becoming distant, of being selfish. But this reaction is not about your boundary. It is about their loss of control. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always be threatened by your growth. There is a quiet strength in choosing distance over disruption. Sometimes walking away is not about anger, but about preservation. It is choosing silence over chaos, clarity over confusion, safety over suffering. You do not need to wait for someone to hit their worst behavior before you decide to protect your peace. You do not need their approval to create distance. You do not need their understanding to prioritize yourself. Peace is not granted by others. Peace is created by the choices you make. The people who deserve access to your presence are the ones who nourish your spirit, the ones who speak with gentleness, the ones who hold your heart carefully, the ones who celebrate your growth instead of feeling threatened by it, the ones who bring clarity, not confusion, the ones who add value, not exhaustion, the ones who bring calm, not storms. These are the people who honor your peace, who respect your boundaries, who value your presence because they see your humanity, not just your usefulness. You must remember that your energy is a resource. It is not infinite. It is not replaceable. It is not something to be handed out freely to those who treat it carelessly. You were not placed on this earth to be drained by other people's unresolved wounds. You were not created to absorb the emotional chaos of those who refuse to heal. Your purpose is greater than being someone's emotional outlet. Your life is greater than being someone's comfort zone. Your spirit is greater than being someone's dumping ground. There is power in recognizing when someone's presence is costing you your peace. There is power in stepping back, power in reclaiming your emotional space. Power in choosing environments that allow your soul to breathe. You are allowed to choose peace even when others call it rejection. You are allowed to walk away even when others call it abandonment. You are allowed to protect yourself even when others call it selfishness. Peace is not something you negotiate. Peace is something you guard. In the end, the people who truly belong in your life will never drain your peace. They will protect it. They will honor it. They will help you grow it. And those who cannot respect the sanctuary within you have no place standing at its door. You protect your future every time you refuse toxic behavior in the present. Because every choice you make today becomes the soil in which your tomorrow grows. People often underestimate the quiet power of their daily decisions, the small boundaries they set, the moments when they say, no more, the times they choose peace instead of chaos. But these choices shape the landscape of your future. They determine what enters your life, what stays in your life, and what has the power to influence your growth. When you refuse toxic behavior today, you are not just protecting yourself in this moment, you are safeguarding the person you are becoming. You are building a life where your spirit can stand tall, unharmed, unburdened, unbroken. Toxic behavior is like a seed. The longer it stays planted in your life, the deeper its roots grow. It begins small, an insult brushed off, a boundary ignored, a lie forgiven too quickly, a guilt trip excused as love. But over time, these small acts turn into patterns. Patterns become habits, and habits shape your reality. If you allow these behaviors to remain, they create a future filled with resentment, self-doubt, emotional exhaustion, and silent suffering. But when you choose to refuse them, firmly, consistently, unapologetically, you stop the seed before it grows into something that takes years from you. Your future depends on the boundaries you set today, not the ones you think about, not the ones you wish you had the strength to enforce, but the ones you actually put into action. Every time you allow someone to cross a boundary without consequence, you teach them and yourself that your needs are negotiable. But every time you stand your ground, even when your voice trembles, you send a different message: my peace matters, my dignity matters, my life matters. That message becomes the foundation for your future relationships, your future decisions, your future self-worth. Many people live in cycles of pain because they repeat the same responses to toxicity, believing things will magically change on their own. But nothing changes until you change what you tolerate. Nothing gets better until you confront the pattern that keeps hurting you. Refusing toxic behavior is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of preservation. It is the moment you stop abandoning yourself for the comfort of others. It is the moment you say, my future deserves better than this. You protect your future when you refuse manipulation, because manipulation confuses your mind and steals your clarity. It twists your intuition until you doubt your own truth. But when you reject it, clearly and without guilt, you reclaim your ability to think, to choose, to trust yourself again. You protect your future when you refuse disrespect, because disrespect, once normalized, becomes the language of every relationship you enter. The moment you decide you will not accept it, not from family, not from friends, not from partners, you change the tone of your life. You start inviting people who treat you with kindness, people who see your worth, people who celebrate your presence instead of using it. You protect your future when you refuse emotional chaos, because chaos distracts you from your purpose. It drains your energy, delays your dreams, and keeps you stuck in cycles that lead nowhere. When you remove yourself from chaos, your mind becomes clear enough to build the life you actually want. You protect your future when you refuse guilt-based control, because guilt is the chain that keeps you tied to situations that have long expired. People who use guilt as a tool want you to feel responsible for their emotions, their choices, their failings. But the moment you stop responding to guilt, you free yourself. You begin living from desire rather than obligation. Every refusal is a decision. Every boundary is a promise. Every no to toxicity is a yes to your growth. The future version of you, the stronger you, the happier you, the more fulfilled you, will look back and be grateful for the courage you showed today. Some people fear setting boundaries because they are afraid of losing people. But you must understand something essential. You never lose people who are meant to stay. The only people you lose by protecting your peace are the ones who were benefiting from your lack of it. And losing them is not a loss. It is alignment. It creates space for healthier connections, healthier energy, healthier love. Your future is shaped by what you allow into your life. If you allow toxicity, your life bends in the direction of pain. If you allow disrespect, your life bends in the direction of fear. If you allow manipulation, your life bends in the direction of confusion. But if you allow peace, your life bends in the direction of clarity. If you allow boundaries, your life bends in the direction of strength. If you allow self-respect, your life bends in the direction of purpose. You protect your future when you finally understand that walking away is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the maturity to recognize that not everyone deserves a seat at the table of your life. Some people belong only in your past, because keeping them in your present is too expensive for your spirit. Peace has a price, and sometimes that price is distance. You protect your future when you stop hoping someone will change and start accepting who they are. Acceptance does not mean allowing them to stay. Acceptance means releasing the fantasy and choosing reality. It means understanding that your future cannot grow in the soil of someone else's refusal to evolve. You are not responsible for their growth. You are responsible for your environment. The more you honor your peace, the more the world responds. Doors open. Opportunities appear. The right people gravitate toward you because your presence no longer carries the weight of unhealed relationships. You begin to attract what aligns with you instead of what drains you. Your intuition sharpens, your confidence strengthens, your spirit expands, and the life you once thought was out of reach becomes possible simply because you stopped letting toxic behavior shape your destiny. Protecting your future is not about being harsh or unforgiving. It is about recognizing that you cannot build a meaningful life while surrounded by people who thrive in dysfunction. It is about choosing environments that help you grow. It is about refusing to sacrifice your inner peace just to keep the peace around you. There is a difference between harmony and self-abandonment. You protect your future when you stop confusing the two. Every time you refuse toxic behavior, you honor the person you are becoming. You honor the life you are trying to build. You honor the dreams you have carried quietly in your heart. And most importantly, you honor the truth that you were never meant to live in the shadows of other people's chaos. You were meant to live in the fullness of your own light.